Greetings, everyone. My name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather to see the lectures and interviews organized by MindaliaTV.com. Today with us, we have Katia Beeden. Katia, she has been, sorry about that. She is a soulpreneur, angel intuitive, and modern mystic. She offers intuitive angel tarot reading and self empowerment coaching sessions to hundreds of clients around the world with the intention of helping them to love themselves more and in turn raise their vibrations and the vibration of the planet. Before going with Katia, there is a couple of things that we want to tell you. If you want to help other people just like you to get and have access to the knowledge and the information we share here in Mindalia TV, you can just subscribe to our channel, like this video, leave us a positive comment down below. This is the way in which you help us reach as much people as possible around the world. Also, while we are live streaming, remember that we have the active chat. That is an excellent tool for you to be interactive with this lecture. You can enter the questions that you may have. Just remember the format, the word question in caps, and the actual question that you have. At the end of the lecture, Katia will be so kind and answer the questions. Without further ado, I'm going to be leaving you now with Katia. Katia.
Thank you so much, Myrna. It's an honor to be here. What's the first question you're generally asked when you meet someone for the first time? So, what do you do? Now, for some, the answer is simple. I'm a surgeon, I'm a political correspondent, I work in IT, and so on. But for others, this can feel like such an uncomfortable and loaded question. What if you're not happy doing what you do? Or what if you do isn't representative of who you really are? Or what if you're between jobs? Or you're not really sure what you want to do? Or you're just barely paying the bills? Then there's not really an easy question to that answer. So what do you do? It's a sad but true fact that many people are deeply unhappy and unfulfilled despite the fact that their job gives them all the material comforts. It's even harder being deeply unhappy and unfulfilled without those material comforts. But rich or poor, the common denominator is not knowing what your life is really about. It's feeling like something is missing and you're just wasting your life. And it all just seems so pointless. There are books and seminars and workshops and tarot spreads and meditations and therapists and coaches dedicated to the topic of discovering your life purpose. I remember 5 or 6 years ago, I began to feel really unhappy in my career. It was becoming harder and harder to get to work on time and to feel motivated and inspired about my work. I kept thinking a holiday, a weekend away, more lunch breaks, or a yoga class would fix it, but nothing helped. And like a cancer, my dissatisfaction started to affect all parts of my life. I knew I needed a change, but I didn't know what to do next. The same questions millions of us ask. Why am I here? What's it all about? What am I meant to be doing? I've spent all this money and all this time and all these years studying to do this thing that I've planned to do, and I'm doing it, and yet I'm so unhappy. I went on a mission to try and figure out what my new career or business idea would be. I wanted a logical, neat, tidy, and financially viable plan that would help me switch careers and claim back my joy. To figure out my life purpose, I did what any normal person would do. I did online questionnaires, I read blog posts, I researched and I explored different career options. And I racked my brain trying to figure it out, trying to get this next business idea. I did several online courses, which were very helpful, but they didn't answer my question. What is my purpose? What am I meant to be doing that will make me happy and support me financially? What will get me out of bed on time? A year later, I was still at a loss as what to do. I would get excited about something, and then a few days later, I would lose steam. Nothing stuck. And I was starting to really hate my job. And it's dangerous when we overstay where we're not meant to be. It becomes toxic. But I figured I've made my bed, best I lie on it. And I set out to make the most of the career I had. I decided to become a freelancer. I believe that the freedom to work from home would make the work more tolerable. It would make me happier. It would make it more bearable. Boy, was I wrong. And the universe was not going to let me off that easy. Clients didn't pay on time. The jobs that did come through, they were uninspiring, and my mojo was gone. I remember the day I finally realized that my career was over. I think I essentially fired myself. A brief for a job landed in my inbox, and normally that would be something to celebrate, especially as a freelancer when you're trying to build up a business and build up a base of clients. But instead of celebrating, I clicked on that email, I read the brief, and I just froze. I was immobile. There was not one cell in my body that wanted to do that job. And in the past, I had just forced myself to do the work. But this time, my body and my soul rebelled. I emailed them back and said I was overbooked. What I didn't know at the time was there was a reason why I was struggling so much. My struggle to find my purpose would continue to be a struggle because I didn't know who I was. I had lost my identity, I had lost my self-confidence, and I had lost my self-worth. At the time, I was in a very unhealthy relationship with someone who constantly put me down and criticized me a lot. I was in the wrong place with the wrong people doing the wrong things. Had I fully loved and respected myself, I would never have found myself in such a vulnerable position. But that was to be one of my biggest lessons. I had to leave that relationship and stand on my own 2 feet in order to find my true north. At the time all of this was going on, my health was in shambles. I had chronic migraines and I couldn't leave the house without my medication and without the panic of a migraine hitting me at any point. I had anxiety, I was depressed, and I'd recently been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was in my 30s and I felt like an old woman. My knees were so painful at times that I could hardly walk. And I had to have them injected with cortisone. And then in the middle of all of that, I got diagnosed with celiac disease and its myriad of symptoms. And with its intense allergy to gluten, even food became a battleground. I was clearly not on the right path. And my legs were symbolically telling me I was not going in the right direction. I believe your body, this beautiful body that houses your soul, is your most accurate oracle. It tells you everything you need to know. It tells you when something is right, and it tells you when something is wrong, and it tells you when you're going in the wrong direction. Simple examples of listening to your body is walking into a room and suddenly getting an intense headache or a stomach ache. That means that there is something in that scenario, in that room, that is not right. If we ignore that and override it, we are fundamentally not listening to our intuition. We are not listening to our soul, that part of us that knows best. I love the work of the late Louise Hay and Carolyn Mace, who teach about the mind-body-soul connection. Literally, every disease is dis-ease in your physical and emotional body. So when you are out of alignment with who you truly are and what you're meant to be doing, your body will start to get sick or sore or allergic. It's not letting you down. It's not walking away from you, so to speak. It's actually loving you. It's actually talking to you. It's actually trying to bring your attention to where your attention should be. If you truly love and respect yourself and listen to your body, you don't force yourself to do a job you hate. You don't spend 70% of your life working for a mean boss or tolerate abuse from others in any form. Life is way too short to do a job you hate and to work or live with people you don't even like. If you are in a job or a relationship that is hurting you or making you unhappy, they are essentially parts of yourself that you do not love And that job or that relationship is mirroring that back to you. When I finally walked away from the job and the relationships that were no longer good for me, instead of expending energy on how awful I thought they were or ruminating about how much time I'd wasted, I rather asked myself the questions: what kept me there for so long? What in me allowed me to be so unhappy for so long? Why did I put myself through that? And figuring out the answer to those questions is where my work really lay. I know it sounds like such a cliche, but it boiled down to self-love. When you truly love and respect yourself, you put yourself in kind situations, in gentle scenarios, and you do work that feeds you and nurtures you. As I figured out the answers to those questions, the bigger question of my life purpose would soon follow. But I was, at the time, like so many of us, unable to let go of my idea of how it should be. There is so much social pressure to be a certain way and to achieve certain things. Logically and on paper, my life looked great. In fact, it was a dream life, and I had spent a good portion of my life, 10 or 15 years, creating and building that life. I had a great career, I had a fiancé, I had a sporty car, I had a sea view, a very sought after address. I had money in the bank, European holidays, and holiday homes. But I was absolutely miserable. I let my ego rule, and my head said, but you have it all. You must be happy. You've had everything you've wanted. You've achieved all your goals. You are so lucky. Don't let it go. So what if you're not happy? Just hang on to it. So what does the universe do when you don't get it? It's your body's falling apart. You're unhappy, you're miserable, but yet you're still just forcing yourself to like carry on because the ego says this is what you're supposed to be doing, and you just don't get it. Well, that's when the universe steps in and it takes matters into its own hands. And just like a mother bird kicks her little baby chicks out of the nest so that they can fly, so too will the universe kick you out of your comfort zone. And what I find so ironic about a comfort zone is that once you've left the comfort zone and you look back, you realize that comfort zones actually aren't that comfortable. I knew my relationship was toxic. I knew my career was off course. I knew I was not surrounded. I knew I wasn't surrounded by the right people. I knew my life was killing me and that I didn't belong there. But I was too scared to make a move and change it. The fear of what that meant kept me stuck. And my arthritis was symbolic of that rigidity and that refusal to change. I was terrified of not being able to look after myself, which was ridiculous because I've been working and earning money since the age of 14. In truth, I was scared of not having the luxury of that lifestyle. And I needed that to feel okay. It made me feel significant. I needed those material crutches to feel successful. In truth, I was just a canary in a gilded cage, and I'd lost my voice and I'd lost my song. But my ego said, you can't give this up. You have to hang on. So I hung on, and I got sicker, and my arthritis got worse, and my migraines got worse, and my soul died and withered a little bit more. And then it happened. Boom. My relationship suddenly ended in a very nasty and quite a dramatic way. And life as I knew it was ripped out from under me. Unfortunately, I'd given away all my power in that relationship, which is what we do when we don't truly love and respect ourselves. So I knew I was going to walk away with very, very little. So to be pushing 40 and to lose everything is a very, very scary place to be. Because at that point in your life, you're supposed to have all these things. And I was just about to lose all those things. And at the time when the magnitude and reality of what I was losing hit me, I literally fell to the floor. And I believe at that moment when I hit rock bottom and I hit the ground, I had what you would call a spontaneous spiritual awakening. Many spiritual awakenings are triggered by a trauma or a shock, a death, a loss, an illness. I fell to my knees sobbing. I was so scared. Now what? I dropped my forehead to the floor, just like the child's pose in yoga. And I was thinking, what am I going to do? How will I cope? Where will I go? How will I support myself? Now, logically, I would get another job in my industry, find a place to live, and life would go on. Okay? Logically, it wasn't such a crisis. The trouble is, I could no longer do what I was doing. And the thought of going back to another position in my industry depressed me so fundamentally that I actually felt that dying would be a better option. So it wasn't a logical option at all. I couldn't do it. Hence my fear being so great in that moment. How will I look after myself? As my forehead touched the ground, something very profound happened. The first thing that happened is the smell of the new carpets hit me. That clean, chemical carpet smell. It filled my nostrils, and strangely, it filled me with gratitude too. I suddenly felt so incredibly grateful that I was lying in the child's pose in my bedroom on a brand new, clean, soft carpet. I was like, oh my God, I am falling apart, literally. But I'm in my own bedroom, I'm safe, I'm alone, and I'm on a plush, clean, new carpet. Styling. How blessed am I? What an elegant way to have a breakdown. The second thing that happened was I was lying in child's pose, my forehead was on the floor, and I was just feeling gratitude that I could just fall apart in that moment privately. And the second thing that happened was I felt the air move around me. It was like a pressure change, and I could feel it. In retrospect, having done the work that I do now, I know that it's the Holy Spirit. And I always experience the work of the Holy Spirit and my clients as well through the wind. And as I felt the shift in pressure and I felt this air, I had a very strong sense that I was surrounded by 4 beings. I could clearly sense 2 in front of me and 2 behind me. It was tangible and I could feel their presence. And suddenly, from being in a state of fear and worry and concern and desolation and feeling so alone and abandoned, I suddenly felt so loved and so held and so supported. And I knew I wasn't alone. I never had been, and I never would be. And that panic and that terror, that survival instinct of having to survive on my own and how would I do it, it literally just fell away. And I suddenly felt so calm, and I felt safe, and I felt supported. And I got up off the floor. My breakdown had been cut short. My strength came back, and I said, thank you. Thank you, angels. I just knew they were angels, and I have been saying thank you, angels, ever since. My spiritual connection was restored. Up until that point, I had not prayed for years. And although I had been brought up quite religious as a child, and I had taught Sunday school and I'd been to church, I had chosen the spiritual path when I was 19 or 20. But during those sort of 6, 7, 8 years of my life where I'd been living this life that I didn't really feel I belong in, the first thing I noticed that had gone was my spiritual connection. I had stopped praying, I had stopped talking to God, and I had become very ego-driven. And by ego-driven, I meant that I was living life by myself, for myself. There was no external support. And in that moment when I fell on the floor and I had that beautiful experience, for me, my spiritual awakening was like I woke up from a dream. And in the dream, when I was asleep, I'd had to do everything by myself. But when I woke up, I realized how interconnected everything is, that I am the earth and the earth is me, and that I would be taken care of, and that everything was okay. The third thing that happened was I was guided to an online meditation. And the next thing I knew, I was lying on my carpet, this time in my lounge, and I was being taken on a guided journey to meet my higher self and my guardian angels. So in the space of an hour, possibly two, I'd gone from sheer 3D panic to the zen and calm of the fifth dimension. It literally is like stepping into another reality. I was no longer being led by my ego and trying to figure it all out for myself. I relinquished control. I knew I had help and that there was a bigger plan in all of it. And my job was just to surrender and follow the guidance I had been given. The ending of this relationship was in essence a release, and it was a gift. I knew I would be led to my new path and purpose. I kept an ongoing conversation with my angels silently and aloud, and I started talking to God and praying constantly. For me, prayer is a continuous conversation with the divine, from please help me find a parking space to please help me find my life purpose. At the time, to help me feel better and to get my confidence and strength back, I started to only listen to positive, uplifting music, shows and talks. I read self-help books on personal development. In fact, I gobbled them up. I read books on self-love and spirituality, and I did as much research as I can on what had happened to me to try and understand my experience. And above all, I kept praying and asking for help with regards to my next steps. And my prayers were answered. Mother India. 3 weeks later, I landed in Mumbai by myself with the intention of exploring North and South India over a 3-month period. The angels had made this trip happen, and it truly was a miracle. India is where my life purpose began to be revealed to me. Like I said earlier, up until this point, my life purpose and this new career that I was looking for was so blocked. How was I going to earn money and look after myself and enjoy doing the work? I ended up spending a week in Rishikesh as part of my tour of North India. And it was here that I met a shaman who helped initiate my healing process. And more importantly, he introduced me to a wonderful astrologer, spiritual teacher, and tarot card reader, Sri Amadoni Swarovski. She's an intuitive counselor just like me, and she is the woman who helped put me on my healing and teaching path that I am on today. I owe all of that to her. She said to me, Katia, you are a spiritual teacher and a healer, and you're going to teach people about self-love. I looked at her incredulous. Me, a healer and a teacher? Are you crazy? I can't do that. I don't even know what that means. Ha! The universe works in very magical and mysterious ways. Instead of trying to solve the dilemma of my life purpose the rational way, like I had been trying to do up until this point, I just surrendered and I just went to wherever I was led. I was led to India. I let go, I went. And although I had a rough itinerary, I didn't try and control the trip too much. I let the trip kind of lead me. I let myself be led to where I felt I needed to go next. I trusted that there was a divine purpose behind it all, and that this is where I was meant to be. And this was part of the journey of finding the answers. The next thing that unfolded, after crying solidly for 4 days straight, I had a lot of grieving and healing to do. I suddenly remembered this little folder on my desktop on my computer. I had taken my laptop with me. I had kept this folder going for years, and at different points in my career, that folder had always been there next to all of my other work files. And let it be known, in those times when I was doing my previous job, when I needed a break or just couldn't take it anymore, I'd always go and peek into this folder and hang out there for a while. It was my chill space, and it held all the cool stuff that I enjoyed learning and reading about. I'd called this folder esoterics. And I had not opened it for months, possibly even years. I clicked on it, and inside was 15 years worth of stuff that I had collected and saved. Astrology, Reiki, energy healing, crystals, numerology, spirituality, auras, angels. It was my secret folder that no one knew about and I never spoke about. And it suddenly hit me. That's the answer. Sri Amadoni is right. This is what you're meant to be doing. You need to start studying the healing arts. That's your passion. There's that wonderful saying that what you're looking for is usually right in front of you. Yep, it's true. Those 2 years I spent on my computer doing all those career questionnaires and quizzes trying to figure out my life purpose. And the whole time that folder was sitting right there on my desktop and I didn't see it. I had to go all the way to India to see it. But as they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And in my case, India brought me the teachers I needed to set me on the right path. Had my relationship not ended, had my spiritual connection not been restored, had I not met Sri Amadoni, I don't think I would ever have allowed myself the luxury of a career in what mainstream refers to as woo-woo. By actually experiencing the power of energy and spiritual healing for myself, I was able to see the value in it. And it dawned on me how barren we all fundamentally are without the mystical component guiding our choices. The whole time I was looking outside of myself for the answer, but actually the answer had been inside of me and on my desktop all along. It was about doing the things I was naturally drawn to, by doing the things I naturally enjoyed. That is where the answer to my life purpose really lay. The third thing that unfolded was the resurfacing of a memory and the realization that it brought. I was 18 at the time and on a gap year in the UK. I was on a long train ride and a much older woman was sitting next to me. I can't remember the details of our conversation, but she ended up pouring her heart out to me. And I ended up giving her very sage and sound advice, way beyond the wisdom of my tender 18 years. And it ended up being a very healing and transformative experience for her and for me. She shared with me that she had never told anything what she had told me. In fact, she had never spoken it aloud. She lived on her own. She wasn't married. She didn't have children. She didn't have family. And this was something I realized I had done many, many times in my life, and I would go on to do it many, many times in the future. I did not realize that I was, in essence, a channel. I was being used by spirit to help, guide, and uplift people. Now, I didn't know really what to say to her. I didn't know all the nuances and hidden meanings in her story. But I believe that spirit and the angels use me, they use my body to tell people what they need to hear at the right time. So I'm just the conduit, the vessel, the tool that they use to do God's gift. Because angels are not embodied, they don't have a body. And I don't have their inherent wisdom. So we work as a team together to do what I believe is the divine and is God's work. This just comes naturally to me. It's not something I had to study or learn or try and find. It was something that I just do. And I'm sharing this with you because if you're struggling to find your life purpose, and like me, you're looking in all these places to find it, you'll probably find it right in or in front of you. It's the thing that you're just doing without realizing you're doing it. So to help figure out your life purpose, ask yourself, what am I good at? What is that thing that I just do? And then go a little bit further and ask people around you, like, what do you think I'm good at? Let them tell you, because they'll tell you. And in between the answers to the question, when you ask yourself that question and the answers that they give you, in between that, you will find the golden nugget of purpose that you're looking for. I've shared my very personal story about my spiritual awakening and the discovery of my true purpose as an example of how your spiritual awakening wakes you up to who you really are. It forces you to make changes in your life so that you can do what you've come here to do. It's not something you find trying to use the rational and logical thinking part of your brain. Sure, for some it is. Some people are lucky. They just know from the age of 5 they want to be a doctor, and they go on and become a doctor, and that's amazing. But it's not so simple for the majority of us. A spiritual awakening helps open you up to who you really are. It helps you take off your masks and reveal your true self. For me, my true self was not working in marketing for a corporate. It's throwing down tarot cards and working with the angelic realm to help and inspire people. It's working with energy and teaching people how to feel empowered, especially if they've been in abusive or narcissistic relationships. In my old life, that was considered insane and a highly irresponsible career choice. But it's not a career choice. It's my mission. It's my purpose. It's my reason for being here. And when we do what we are meant to be doing, everything falls into place. The resources, the money, the opportunities, the great ideas, they literally arrive as if by magic. And it is magic. It's divine magic. When you follow your guidance, when you listen to your soul, you get led to where you need to be. The trick is to have the courage and the faith to follow that call. I suggest you move away from the question, what am I meant to be doing? And rather ask, how can I serve? How can I be of service to my planet and to those around me? Think about yourself and your current role to the people in your life. How do you make people feel? Do you motivate them? Inspire them? Do you make them laugh? Help them achieve certain goals? Provide for them? Are you a provider, a nurturer? Do you make people feel safe? Or do you help them look a certain way? Ultimately, your life purpose is not about you. It's about other people and the difference you make in their lives. So, for example, if you're a shoe designer, you could say, I design shoes for a living. But in answer to the question of your life purpose, you don't design shoes. You make people feel like $1 million. You see the difference? The one is a job title. The other one has nothing to do with titles. What you put out into the world is what you get back. And part of the awakening process is to realize this, to realize you are here on purpose and you have a lot to give the world. If you are still struggling, ask yourself, what do I need more of? And go and give that to others. I needed more self-love, so I learned to do that, and now I teach it to others. In the moment of awakening, your ego gets pushed out of the driving seat so that your higher self can take the wheel. Your ego wants you to look good and make money, and your higher self wants those things too, but not at the expense of your happiness and your joy. The trick is to work with both to create a dream team. But the ego has to die first for this to be able to happen, which is what the spiritual awakening process is about. It's an ego death, I believe, to help restore balance. When you live from a place of self-love instead of self-loathing, you make much healthier choices. And all of that old programming falls away. The programs that say making a living is hard, or work is not meant to be fun, or suck it up, sugar lump. No. A spiritual awakening blows that nonsense all up. And you realize that life is beautiful. It's a gift. And you are a gift. And you're allowed to be who you truly are and do work that lights you up and others up. When I was miserable in my job, it wasn't only affecting me. I was spreading miserable vibes around to everyone. In retrospect, ugh. I'm embarrassed. That is a terrible way to live and be in the world. You're allowed to change your career. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change your partner, and you're allowed to change your life. For me, sure, it was a pretty radical shift. For you, it may just be turning your job title into your mission statement. Remember our shoe designer? But for me personally, giving up being a creative in the advertising industry to throw tarot cards is probably the sanest thing I have ever done. I have never felt more clear or more empowered in my life. No one has exactly what you've got. That unique and special combination of natural talents that makes you you. They can't do it or deliver it the way you do. So I invite you to step out of whatever closet you need to step out of. For me, it was the spiritual closet, and go for it. Be your authentic self, no matter how different or quirky or against the mainstream it may be. Because now, more than ever, the world needs light workers. It needs light warriors. We need healers and we need teachers. And you don't have to become a spiritual teacher to do that work. You can do that work in whatever field you are in by turning your job title into your mission statement. You can find your purpose. The world needs more light. It needs what you've got, and it needs you. Namaste. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Katia. That was definitely beautiful.
Thank you.
We really want to thank you. It was very, it felt really, really real and very authentic. We're gonna go with the Q&A section, but before going there, there is what we want to remind you, our audience. We are a nonprofit, non-governmental organization, and we are just here with the mission. We are convinced that we can change the world. We just want to raise consciousness. So there is a couple of things that you can do to help us do that, to achieve that goal. You can like this video, subscribe to our channel, leave us a positive comment down below. And that is the way in which you help us reach as much people as possible. Also, we still have the active chat, and you still have chance to put your questions there. Without further ado, we're going to go back to Katia. Katia, you're going to be hearing my voice. You're just not going to see my face, but I'm going to be right here if you need me.
Yep.
And the first question says, I feel stagnant at the job I have. I don't like it, but I need the money. What can I do?
Oh, I know that feeling so well, and it's tough because it's so hard to feel motivated, and you just start losing steam, and it can just suck you down and bring you down. My suggestion is, in a situation like that, your vibration has been pulled down, you're feeling frustrated, so you want to find things that fill you up, that give you energy, that give you back your inspiration. And when I was feeling so low, I started listening to talks. I started listening to good music. I started eating healthily. I started reading books, and I became so strict about what I surrounded myself with. So it was the first step. It was like to help get myself feeling positive and not negative. I became very conscious about putting positivity around me. And then I started exploring my options. Like I said in my talk, I started doing all the quizzes and the researches, and granted, it didn't get me to where, it didn't give me the answers at the time, but it was part of the process. Ultimately, I guess I'm almost scared to say this, but if you are really unhappy and it's really bringing you down, then maybe you need to leave the job. And yes, you need the money, but you know what? There will be another job that will give you money. And it might just be a sideways move. It might not be an up move, but sometimes a sideways move is better than no move. So if you can't find a way to make it palatable while you work on something else and do something else, as radical and as dramatic as it sounds, take the courage. Like, you jump out, get out. Because if something's making you truly miserable, it's just not worth it. It's not. So I would then suggest a sideways move.
Thank you so much for that answer, Katia. Our next question says, why do we end up doing something we don't really like or hate?
It's a good question. I was listening to a TED talk a while ago on that very subject, and it was looking at the statistics, I think worldwide, something like 8 or 7 or 9, or I don't know, it was something ridiculous about people. I think it was like 7 people out of 10 don't like their jobs. So the question is, well, as human beings, do we just not like to work? Well, we know that's not true, because when we do work that fills us up, it doesn't feel like work and we love it. But as human beings, we're not very good at choosing what we're good at. And I don't know why that is. I personally think it's because I think we're just too influenced by societal pressure to do what everyone or society thinks we should do. And I just think there isn't enough time and space for us to really tune into our own bodies and into our own feelings and ask ourselves what we really want to do, and to use that as our comfort and as our compass. So to use that as our compass. I mean, I was guilty of that. When I chose my career originally, I did what I thought was the right thing, what sounded cool, what my ego thought sounded cool. I wasn't paying any attention to what really made me happy and who I was. So again, it comes back to the courage to move sideways or move contrary to what everyone expects you to do. And it does take courage to do that. It's not necessarily easy, but it's so worth it.
Thank you, Katia. Next question. How did you knew you were in a different dimension when you went there?
The first thing was, think about it. I was in this total state of panic and fear. I felt abandoned. I felt isolated. I felt alone. Suddenly, I felt calm. I felt loved. I felt held. So the first thing was this very different feeling. I felt very different. And I felt light. And I guess this might sound a bit strange, but it's like the colors were different. Things were more vivid. Literally the world around me didn't look the same. It didn't feel the same. And I felt different. It literally was, I think when you're in another dimension, you know you are. It's like, I guess a great way to explain it is if you fly from one part of the world to another, like if you're going from America to Tokyo, or you're going from the south of Africa to Italy, and you get off that plane and you're in this totally different culture, it feels fundamentally different. It's a little bit like that, but it's a bit like that, but different. But it feels different, and it felt calmer and safer. And yeah, I just felt there was no fear. It was like, instead of looking at this whole journey in front of me, I was like, oh my word, how am I going to do this? I've got to do all these things, panic. I was just like, this is cool. This is exciting. I've got this. There was just the sense of calm. And yeah, I still remember there were these birds that also came and sat on the balcony. It was also a different dimension. Like I suddenly noticed things I didn't notice before. It was like the birds and the butterfly and the sound of the ocean. And it's like nature and the world itself became so much more vivid. It popped. As crazy as it sounds, that was my experience.
Thank you so much, Katia. Next question. Why is it that most people is close to that upper guidance?
Why is it that people are closed? Did you say close to or closed?
Close, like they are closed to, like they don't have access to it.
Well, I mean, I can speak from my own experience. Those 6 or 7 years of my life when I lost that connection, I was just so focused on making money and following a career, and I was doing all the wrong things, and I lost that connection. So I think fundamentally, as human beings, we are all connected to source. We all have a spiritual component. It is part of who we are. It's inherent. And I think it gets blocked by being in toxic relationships. Perhaps as a child, there's a lot of abuse going on or neglect. And as a survival technique, you emotionally shut down and your defenses all come up. I think that closes us off. Chasing the wrong things, being with the wrong influences, the wrong people closes us off. Lack of faith, lack of belief closes us off. But the minute we kind of come back home to ourselves and we can kind of look around us at the wonder and the majesty of being on this planet and its beauty, we can start connecting. And a lot of my clients say, but Katia, I'm so disconnected. How do I connect? And I say, you know what? Start going for walks. Even if it's just around the block and you live in the city, go for walks and pay attention to the sky. Look at the trees. Look at the birds. Just if you can just start paying attention to Mother Nature in the smallest, most simplest ways, you will start opening up that connection, that crown chakra. It's about being connected to the planet and the earth and to the natural world around us. That, I believe, is how we start opening up our spiritual selves, when we reconnect to the earth.
Thank you so much, Katia. Let's see. Next one, it says, I have tried several jobs and industries, but I don't seem to fit with any of them. How do I find what I am supposed to be doing? How do I find my purpose?
The first thing I want to say is, and I didn't mention this in my talk, is ironically, when I look back at where I am now and I look at every single job I had, from when I was a waitress to when I was an au pair to when I worked in advertising, the work I'm doing now, I use every single skill and component of all of those jobs. And all of those jobs have built me up to do what I do now. And I just want you to know that all those jobs you're doing are so on purpose and so right, and Spirit has got you there. Even the person that asked the question earlier, oh, I hate my job but I need the money. Just know that job, you are there for a reason. There's something you need to know. There's something you need to learn, and all those different components are coming together to lead you to where you need to be. So I would say keep trying and just keep going. And there's a reason why you're choosing all these random pieces, and it will make sense. I promise you there will come a day it will make sense. But just keep going. And remember what I said in my talk as well. Instead of asking, what must I do? What must I do? Reframe the question. Start asking yourself, how can I serve? And see if that shifts your way of looking at it and shifts your next choice of job.
Thank you so much. Let's see. The next one says, what about our family? They are also a responsibility. How to follow our purpose and also take care of our kids?
Well, the first thing I want to say is, if you want to be an awesome parent, you want to teach your kids to also follow their hearts and follow their passions. Okay, so I think there's a bit of a two-way message here. I think under the message of this question, the way it was phrased was, I can't just go off to India or go and do this. I've got to look after children. Fair enough, we can't all do that. Like I said, my journey was pretty radical, and not everyone's in a position to do that. But then the middle road would be, while you're looking after your children and you've got your one job going, on the side, you start putting the other hobby, the other work, the other thing in place, and you do the two together. It's like studying and having a full-time job. It might be quite hectic for a while, but slowly but surely, you'll find that you'll be able to transition between the two. At the same time, what are you going to be teaching your children? You're going to be teaching your children that they can have, be, and do what their heart wants, and not just have to do what they're told or what they think they have to do. So you would then be teaching them that and showing them that. But I would say most people, I would guide to do a transition, a crossover. I mean, not the way I did it, I know was a bit radical, and it's, you know, it's not the sensible path for everyone.
Thank you. The next question, it says, sometimes it's our parents that won't allow us to follow our dreams. How can we do that without what can we do what we want without being disrespectful with them?
Oh, you see, this is the whole big thing of the spiritual awakening process. This is the shadow side of the spiritual awakening process that a lot of people feel very uncomfortable speaking about. Yes, a spiritual awakening is amazing because it cracks you open and it reveals your true self and it puts you on this path. The shadow side of that, in following your true self and in doing what is true to you, is unfortunately you are going to piss some people off. You are going to make people unhappy. You are going to have people that are disappointed in you. And initially people will say, how can you do that? How can you do that? But if you stay true to your path and if you follow your soul, those same people are probably going to come back to you and say, how did you do that? And they'll come to respect you for it. And part of the spiritual awakening is coming into your own power. Yes, our parents, the job of a parent is to love and nurture their child. But ultimately, a parent has to release that child to become an adult, to stand on their own 2 feet. And just like I said, the mother bird kicking her chicks out of the nest to go and fly, part of you is allowing yourself to take that and not feel guilty about it. And because that's your parents' guilt and their neediness and their clinginess, and that's not healthy. They're not letting you fly. So that's the shadow side of the spiritual awakening is, yeah, there is that hard part of it that takes the courage and takes the faith. And it's not easy to go one's own way, but the rewards are worth it, because when you stick to it and you are a success and you make a success of it, then they come back and they're like, wow, you did it. And sometimes that's par for the course. Part of our baptism by fire is to walk that path. And it does take courage. It's, life is not always easy. It really isn't. It is not meant to be. We're meant to be challenged. And even though your parents might be upset with you for a while, you're teaching them something too. You are being their teacher through going your own way. So it does take courage. It's about courage and faith.
Thank you, Katia. The next question says, is it true that certain foods and products that we use block our ability to sense or perceive the other realities?
Yes, I absolutely do believe that. If we are putting toxic and poisonous things onto our body is struggling to cope, and it's fighting these things. So we're vulnerable. And then that's actually something I left out earlier when someone was asking, why are we not all connected? Too much alcohol, drugs, medication, those things also, they can block our connection to source. So, I mean, I don't like to get too hysterical, and I don't want to go in and get too hectic about it. But if it's going to kill an insect or kill a plant, it's probably going to kill you. And if we're putting our bodies under that much distress, yes, it will interfere with our connection to source. One of the things I noticed when I had my spiritual awakening, and it was quite radical, was how sensitive I became. I became hypersensitive to chemicals, to foods. I stopped drinking alcohol. I became vegan. It was radical. And I actually couldn't tolerate all those harsh things. So your body, as you go through that spiritual awakening process, will actually tell you in no uncertain terms, it won't be able to handle it anymore. I became intolerant to dairy, which, I mean, I'd eaten dairy my whole life, and suddenly I was breaking out. I just couldn't tolerate it. So I think if you want to connect and open up to spirit, I would definitely start with food. Let food be thy medicine. Put healthy, clean, high vibrational foods into your body. Use organic, high vibrational products in your body and in your home. Anything low vibrational, whether it is food or a chemical, is going to bring your vibration down. Spirit and the angels work up here in the upper chakras and the upper vibrations. Those things are heavy and dense energy. So yeah, those angelic energies and stuff can't come in when the energy is too dense. So if you want to connect, you want to keep it light and open and clear. It's so important. Yeah.
Thank you, Katia. And we reached the end of the Q&A, and we have one last question. I think it's a good one. I feel that Western civilization has a big taboo about feeling and sensing the invisible.
Yeah.
They shut down with medication. What do you think about that?
Just repeat the question. So they're saying that I agree that there is a very
it doesn't seem exactly like a question, but more like a statement or an opening for the topic. I feel that the Western civilization has a big taboo about feeling or sensing the invisible. They shut that down with medication.
Okay. So
what do you think about that?
I don't think it's just Western. I prefer the word mainstream. Mainstream, I guess Western, can use it interchangeably. Yeah, I mean, there is this big focus on science and left brain, and if you can't see it, touch it, measure it, it doesn't exist. This whole awakening that we're going through now is wonderful, and there's a big shift happening. So many more people are starting to open up to the unseen and the magical and the mystical. So it's starting to come into mainstream now. The whole spiritual awakening is hitting our planet. I mean, meditation and yoga, those things were considered completely crazy 10, 15, 20 years ago, and now it's everywhere. So I actually feel very positive and very inspired and very excited about where Western culture is going from a spiritual perspective. And yes, I agree, Western medication has numbed down and been very detrimental to our spiritual and emotional bodies for years. But like I say, I'm so excited because that is also shifting and changing, and we are becoming conscious and aware of that. It's being exposed right now as we speak. So yeah, I'm excited. I think things are opening up, and I think we are starting to move in the right direction. So yeah.
Thank you, Katia, so much. And as we reach to the end of this segment, we want to thank you on behalf of our team and on behalf of our audience for sharing with us tonight, for giving us, your time and your wisdom. Before leaving, we also want to remind our audience that we are a non-governmental, non-profit organization. Our mission is just to raise the level of consciousness around the world. And if you want to help us do that, you can subscribe to our channel, like this video, leave us a positive comment down below. That is just a way in which you help us reach as much people as possible, and we can start changing and raising the level of consciousness. Before leaving, Katia, we want to, have you one more time, leave us with a message, with a kind, loving thought for our audience.
My kind, loving thought would just be, just love yourself. Everything starts and ends with self-love. If you can love and respect yourself, you will love and respect everyone else and the planet. It starts here. It starts with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste. And to you, to our audience, thank you for being with us today. And until next time. Bye.
Okay, bye.